Hello? Hello?
Yes, hello. Who is
Can,
that?
this is Hilal. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay,
Please
yeah.
allow a few more minutes. Um,
Yeah, I was just
we'll
testing my
finish.
headset. I was just testing the headset.
Sure,
All right, thank you.
sure, no problem. You're welcome. So, Brother Hilal, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thanks. Thanks for confirming. So, let me know if you can see my screen.
I'll let you know. Yes.
You can see it?
Yeah, I see your screen.
Okay. Thank you. Open new tab and okay. So, last time, okay, let me open Blackboard. Since like no one joined yet, you are the only one. Okay, so let's work here. And today is June 6th, and this is group session 9, right? And this is the second last group session. We have one more group session on Friday.
Okay.
And let me open IntelliJ.
What is this IntelliJ?
This is an IDE. Are you familiar with Eclipse?
Yes, the one that we have.
Yes. So this is
Yeah.
same as Eclipse.
Oh, okay.
And so can you briefly explain what you did in the class?
Who? Brother Tariq.
Yeah.
Um, last time I think he
Not last time, like the Saturday and Sunday, right? Last
yeah,
this
Saturday,
Saturday
Sunday.
and Sunday.
Saturday,
Hmm.
Sunday. He started. He was doing the database, the MySQL database. How
Okay.
to connect to the database, and then we had a lot of issue with downloading the software. So he worked with usually he worked with Sadiq with and Al Tayyib to he asked him like to use their Eclipse, and they download. It's been like the past 2 weeks with MySQL database, and then they run some programs to show how you can export data to the database or import some data from the database, MySQL database. That's about it. And then he started. I got disconnected. He started toward the end of Sunday. Selenium. Not sure if he went far. They had to download something, and that's it.
Okay.
I think we have one more person that just doing Tasneem, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
So we're three of us now.
All right. That's good. So few announcement. So since we missed some topics during our class, usual class, we'll have some recovery class after. I mean, after Eid. So we had an
After
admin
Eid.
meeting. Yeah. After we had a meeting. So myself, Brother Murshid, Samsuddin, and Mizanur Rahman, we had a meeting last time, and we noticed that you guys did not completed all the topics of Java. So we will have some recovery class. So this is the last week of Java, right? And next week will be the off week. I mean, next week is Eid, right? And after
Yes.
that, we will have some recovery class. So,
Brother, let me
oh,
stop
I'm
you.
sorry.
So
I think you have class on next Saturday and Sunday as well. Am I right?
I'm not sure. That was
Yes.
the question because we're getting close to Eid. Are we gonna have a class or are we gonna stop?
No, okay. So, okay, let me tell. So, you guys have completed 4 weeks of Java so far. So, next week you will have one more class on Saturday, and that is the last class, right? But join Sunday. Brother Murshid will join on Sunday as well. He will make all the announcement and all the schedule and everything. He will explain everything how the rest of the semester will go, right? So, and as I mentioned, we will have some recovery class, but he will explain more on Sunday. So don't miss the class on Sunday. Please join, and he will explain everything. And that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions?
Also, I wanted to ask you about the group sessions. Later on, like after Ramadan's over, is it going to be a little later? The timing?
The timing will be as before. So before we used to have the group session from 8 to
8.
10, I believe.
Yeah,
8 to
those
10,
are
right?
actually great. Yeah, for me.
So yeah, that will be as before. Yeah. So
Okay.
we had to change because of the iftar, because of
Mhm.
the breakfasting. So yeah, after Eid, it will be as before.
Okay.
And and yes, so Sunday, Brother Murshid will explain about the recovery class and the rest of the semester classes. and all other topics, right?
Okay.
So you can ask any question you have in that time.
All
Okay,
right.
and so for those recovery classes, I'm not going to take any quiz or anything. So I'm continuing whatever I was doing. So we'll in the recovery class we will do the rest of the thing that we have missed. Okay, so since like last week, I mean this week, brother Tarek covered SQL and Selenium, even though those are not part of Java course. So I am going to my Blackboard, and we have. So today, as promised, I'm going to explain the object-oriented programming language concept. That is also called the OOPS concept. Um, so polymorphism, encapsulation, inheritance, and abstraction. Before going to that part, I just want to know if you guys have any questions regarding. So far we have finished field and method, right? And we have finished Java statement, right?
Yes.
And we have finished object and class. And what else we did? We have finished array. What else? And I think that's pretty much it. Okay. And primitive type, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is there any question from these topics before I go to the OOP?
No, from my side, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, any question from function, method, variable, field, Java statement, for, if, while, do while, switch, primitive type, array? Any
No
question,
questions.
sister?
No.
I mean, Tasneem? No question? Okay, that's
No.
great.
Yeah, I'm okay with
Okay,
those.
all right. So then let's move on to the object-oriented programming language concept. So in the object loops concept, we have basically four main topic. Those are inheritance, right? And
Mm.
the second one is uh, polymorphism, and then inheritance encapsulation, right? And the last one is abstraction, right? So these are called the pillars of a object-oriented programming language, right? In this case, Java. So these are the pillars of Java, right? So we want to understand what are they, right? So let's start with I believe inheritance, right? To start with inheritance, let's see what inheritance means. I can hear some noise. If you can
That's
please
my
mute
door. I'm gonna
yourself.
mute myself. That's my door, office
Okay,
door.
okay. So let me write the definition of inheritance, right? So inheritance um, classes can be derived from other classes, thereby inheriting fields and methods from those classes. right? And we have two concepts. One is called subclass, and other one is called superclass, right? So what is subclass and what is superclass? So subclass is a class that is derived from another class, right? And what is superclass? A class from which the, derived, right? So these are the definition of the subclass and superclass, right? And we also should keep in mind that subclass can also be called as subclass can also be called as derived class, right? And it can also be called as extended class or the child class, right? These are some names, and superclass can be called as a base class or the parent class. Okay, so uh, I will explain more with the real example instead of writing note here. So let's go back to IDE in Jellies and create some um, subclass and superclass, right? So inheritance, what does it mean, right? Inherit means relationship, right? So relationship of what? So as I mentioned, a Java program is a combination of classes, right? You will have many hundreds, thousands of classes, right, in a program, and we are going to create relationship between some classes, right? So those relationship, the techniques of making those relationship is called inheritance, and that is a feature of object-oriented programming language, right? So as I mentioned here, if I go back to note, it says um, classes can be derived from other classes, thereby inheriting fields and methods from those classes, right? So we want to understand about this inheriting fields and methods from those classes, right? So if I create now, let's say one class I'm going to create, let's call it person, right? So this is one class I have. Let me create another class called, let's say, student, right? So I have two classes. One is called person and one is called student. Now let me write a main method here. Public static void main string argument, right? And system dot out dot print line. Okay, I am having some error. Seems like the Java related error. Let me figure it out. Hmm. Okay, let me try again. We are still having those errors. Let me actually create.
Assalamu alaikum. What are the three packages that you made, three classes that you made? Sorry, one was student, one was...
One was student, one was person, and other one just give a name. Just like
give anything?
maybe you
Okay.
can call it, yeah, maybe main.
Okay. Name, student, and person. Okay. And the package name was session 9, right?
Yeah, package name was session 9 exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So, so everything's fine here. I don't see anything wrong. So create one more project now. So close project and create new project. Try again. 9. Call it 9 again. Package 9. Class name. Please give me a few more minutes. I'm trying to figure it out.
No problem. Take your time.
Thank you. Okay, so my Eclipse is working. Let's work on Eclipse instead of IntelliJ. So, but if you can, if your IntelliJ is working, that's fine too. All right, so let's start here. We have created a project called S9, and I have a package called S9 as well. And under it, I have a main class. So let's create two more class. I'm naming those as person and student, right? So class student, right? And so I have three class. One is called person, one is called student, and one is called main. So I want to create some field in student. Can someone help me creating some field in student?
Well, can you repeat the question, brother? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would like to create some field in student. Right?
Okay.
I mean, in my personal class, I want to
Yeah,
create
you
some
can
field.
say end exam one, maybe.
So person, does it related with exam one?
Oh, you said student or person? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, person.
Uh, nationality, whatever. Semicolon.
Okay. And
And
how about, okay, excellent.
age.
Yeah.
So
Also,
nationality should be
public.
or
That should be string.
Public. Yeah, you can do
should be string, right?
string. Yeah, for
Okay.
nationality. Yes.
All right.
And then name.
One more.
Public string name.
Name. Okay.
And public int age.
If we don't make it
Actually-
public, is it automatically assume it's public?
No. So that that will be. I will explain that part in the encapsulation. So what is public, private? So if you do not declare public, it will be package private. But I will explain more
Oh, okay, I thought it would
on
be
the
the default
encapsulation
would
part.
be public. Okay.
No, default is the separate one. So default is called the package private.
Okay.
Okay. I don't need interface, so let's close this. And okay, so public string, you said age, right? So double or int age. So I have 3 fields in my person class, right? And so let's create one in student. Okay, let's not create anything now. Let's see. So now a person is a student, right? I'm sorry, a student is a person, but a person does not have to be a student, right? Let's say if I have one more class here called employee, right? So, and I can in my student, can you give me one field that is related to student? Public double, let's say
GPA,
exam
GPA.
GPA, right? So GPA. So this is related to my student class. And can you give me one example, one field of employee?
Salary, public string salary.
Salary. Okay. String or double?
Oh, no,
It would
double,
be
because salary
double,
is a number. I'm
double.
sorry. Yes, double.
Public double salary. Okay. So now, if I see here, so a person, I have employee, I have person, student, and employee, right? Person, student, and employee. So, and person has name, age, and nationality. Student has GPA, and employee has salary, right? So, but so person has name, age, and nationality, right? So these 3 fields is also appropriate for a student. Am I correct?
Yes.
And these 3 fields is also appropriate for employee, right? So
Yes.
actually, it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be like this, right? So student has name, age, nationality, and GPA. Employee has name, age, nationality, and salary, right? And later we notice that these 2 has some common fields, right? So, and we tried to figure out what is that common term, and we found that student in employee and student, the common term is person. That means a student is also a person, a employee is also a person. That's the reason some fields are common. So for that reason, what we did, we created one more class, one separate class called person, and eliminating those common fields. We are taking out those common fields from here and here and pasting those to here, right? So now if you see, I am not repeating anything. So whatever common fields I had in student and employee, I created a separate class called person and added those common fields in that class. Is this, I mean, does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now what we have to do is we have to create the relationship. So how can we create relation between person and student? Anyone?
Create an object.
No.
Student can
See,
be inherited
did you
from
ever
person.
all right. So we have to use the keyword called extend, right?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah.
So public class student extend. Then I want to extend person. Now this student is um, extends from person, right? In the same way, what I will do in employee, I will do the same, extend person, right? So extending a class, what we are doing, I can go back to my note I'm saying inheriting fields and methods from those class, right? So now I'm inheriting this common field to my other classes. So as an example, let's say let's give a grade. I mean, like let's give some. Let's make it static for now, and give some common name. I mean, this is just for understanding. So let's say name is John, right? And age is let's say 25, right? Nationality, let's say USA, right? And give some value here as well. Let's say 3.5, and salary equal, let's say 100. So these are some value I have for you to, I mean, for your understanding. So I have some initial value for this field, and not creating an object. I am just making those static. That how we don't have to create any object to use this, right? Now, if I want to print GPA from student class, how can I print in my main method? What should I write? Anyone? I want to print. I want to print this value, right? I want to print the GPA from student
Student
class.
dot
How can
student
I?
dot
Student dot.
GPA.
Excellent. Okay. Now let's try it. It says 3.5, right? Excellent. Let's say I want to print salary from employee class. How can I print it? What should I write? Employee dot salary, right? And if I run it, it says 100. Same way, if I want to print name from person, what should I write? Anyone?
Sorry, what was your question?
The question is, I want to print this name, John.
Mhm.
I want to print it. So in my main, what should I write?
Person dot name.
Person dot name. Okay.
K-
So if
k-
I run it, it says John.
Can you
Now
also say student dot name, since it's extend from person, or no?
right. I can also tell, right? So
Yeah.
let's say that is my goal, right?
Yeah.
To make you I mean, for you to understand. So now, can I see name in my student? Yes or no?
No.
I don't have name here, right? No. But can I tell student dot name?
Yes. I'm assuming.
Why?
Yes. Because it extends
Because
from, it inherits the person class, right?
right. So it's inherited, right? So that means even though I do not have name here, but when I'm telling extend person, that means any functionalities, all the fields and all the methods are now inherited to my subclasses, right? To these classes. Now I can tell here that student. Let me take it out. Now I can tell here that student dot name. But if you go to student, you won't see any name field here. But I am writing here student dot name. And if I go and execute the program, it says John. See, but students do not have that functionality, right? Same way, if a person has a static method, let's say public static void method, so this is just a method, and it print what's up, right? So this is a method. So this method is inside of inside of the person class, right? But student, I do not see any method, right? But here, if I tell that system.out.println student dot method, that means I'm calling that method, right? So if I call that method, right, student dot dot method, even though students do not have that method, right?
Are you able to
If I
change that
execute
or manipulate the function on like a student or the employee after it inherits it?
after inheritance, you want to change
Are
this?
you able to
What?
change that the print line on student or the employee
Yeah, why not?
class? Okay.
For example, yes, you
So are
can.
you able to
So,
write something here like the method again and then ask it to say something else?
okay, so what do you want me to do in my person class? Should I change this?
No, on student maybe have a method.
Okay, here. Okay, and then write a method here.
Yes, the same thing like you had in person, but like it says something else in the message.
Oh, okay, so you wanna just copy this and paste it
Hmm.
like this?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, so you can do that. That concept is a part of polymorphism,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So once you do that, I'll explain that more on this part, polymorphism.
Okay.
Now we are explaining inheritance. In that case, this method will be executed, not the superclass one.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. So now this inheritance is part is. Did you guys understood what is inheritance and how does that work?
Yes.
Okay. So in Java, there are two types of inheritance. One is called is-a relationship, and one is called has a relationship, right? So what is a relationship and what is has a relationship? So whatever I just have explained is called is a relationship, right? So, and what is has a relationship? Whenever we import a class, let's say if I write here import java dot util dot scanner maybe, right? So this is the import statement, right? And I imported the class scanner, right? Now I can use the scanner class, scanner import equal new scanner, right? So this is a statement I have used, right? But if I take off this line, I'm getting error here, right? So, but if I keep this line, that means if I import a scanner class from Java API, then I will be able to use that class, right? So there are more than 4,000 classes in Java API. Also, in our application, we can have many classes in many packages, and many times we can import them, right? If if I have a class in different package and if I want to use the fields and methods from that class, I can simply import that class and use the fields and method of that class, right? So this is another technique of having. So in person, what I did to use this in my student class, I did not import, right? I extended. But that is one technique. Another technique is I can import that, right? And I can simply, I will have access of those fields and method or those functionalities. But what is the difference? What is the difference if you import a class and if you extend a class? So if you import a class, you will have access of those functionalities. But if you extend a class, all the fields and methods automatically came inside of your this class as well, right? So this is I extended person because that makes more sense, because name, age, and nationality is also part of student class. That's why we simply extended that, and we don't have to repeat those fields, right? And why the name is a, because is a means a student is a person, right? I can tell here a student is a person, is a, right? Is a student is a person, right? Or an employee is a also person, right? So if I give you, if I gave you two class name, let's say I have a class called car and I have another class called Toyota. So who should extend home? Who can tell? Anyone?
Toyota extends car.
Exactly. Toyota extends car, right? So I need the functionalities of car inside of my Toyota, right? So if I have one more, let's say Honda, right? In that case also I should write what you said. You said Toyota extends car, right? In that case, what I should write for Honda?
You're going to do the same thing. Instead of Toyota, you're going to put Honda, right?
Right. So Honda extends car, right? So, but I cannot tell that car. I should not tell car extends Toyota. I don't want to. Okay. So the functionalities that is common. I mean, I should not tell car extends Toyota because I do not want those specific feature of Toyota inside of my car, because car is more broad term here. In the same way, I cannot tell Honda extend Toyota. I cannot tell like Toyota extend Honda, right? So what is the easy trick to understand? How we can understand that? So we have to come up with easier solution. That is called easier solution. So what I can write, if you can write a term here and a term here, that means that term will extend this term, right? So in this case, is a, right? I can write here that Toyota is a car. So this part is the superclass. This class is the subclass. Does that make sense? This is superclass. This is subclass. So Toyota is a car. So now this is superclass and this is subclass. Now I can write that Toyota extend car. So you can prove, you can prove it. I mean, or you can test it. You can write here car, and you can write here Toyota. So now, does it make sense? Car is a Toyota. No, car is a Toyota. It's not a true statement. Car does not have to be a Toyota. It can be a truck or a bike as well, right? So this is false. How about Honda is a Toyota? This is also false, right? This is not true. So you have to test it in different way and come up with a solution, right? Let's say if I write person is a employee. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, right? A person is not necessary to be an employee. It can be it can be anything. It can be student, it can be father, it can be mother, or anything, right? So this statement is not true. So how about student? Student is employee. Nope, it doesn't make sense as well. So how about what else I can write? Let's
Employee is
say
a
person.
employee is a person.
Employee is a person. I mean, does that make sense or not?
To me, it does.
Yes, it makes sense, right? So employee is a person. So so that is the reason this is called is a relationship. So we understood what is a relationship is. Whenever we have is a relationship, that means whatever inside of your super class must be the feature of also your subclass. This is subclass student. This is superclass person. So once again, whenever a subclass extends a superclass, that means all the functionalities of superclass also is the part of your subclass, or all the features of superclass should also be exist in your subclass, right? So whatever field you write here, whatever field, whatever function you write here, all those should be part of your student as well. All those should be part of your employee as well. If you have more classes here, let's say if I create a class called brother, if I call a class called sister, so all those class, if they extend person, all those classes, the feature of all the person class should be part of all those classes. So that is a relationship, and you should keep in mind that you cannot extend more than one class at a time. Let's say I cannot tell here that is to person class student extends person. I cannot tell, let's say, a comma student. I cannot extend more than one class. I can extend only one class at a time, right? So this is this is called is a relationship and has a relationship, right? Has a means if you import, if I import, let's say if I import a class, so I already imported employee, I mean a scanner class, right? Can I import an employee here? Let me check. S9 dot employee, right? So if you notice here now, I just imported employee class in my person student class, even though it doesn't make sense. I'm just giving you example. So now what happened? Whenever I imported my employee class, so this is the package name S9, right? And followed by the class name, right? Employee, right? So now what happened? Now I have access of salary from here, right? You wanna test it? System dot out dot print line. Let's say I can tell employee dot salary, right? I can have access of employee here from my student class, right? From my what class is this? Student class. right? If I take off my import statement from here, okay, still I'm not getting error because by default you have, if these classes are under same package, you have access of those. But think about if you have a different package, and if you import that, you will get an error here, because in that time you do not have access of those classes. So, and why we are calling it has a relationship? Because by default it is not there, but you have I mean, you can access that. You can access those features, but it is not part of this class. I don't know how to better way to explain, but we will have some more example and quiz and I'll give you some more example later after explaining all this. So in that time, the relationship, the difference between is and has a will be more clear. But for now, just understand that is a relationship is the one whenever we use the extends term, and has a relationship is the one whenever we import a class. And this is extend a class, import, and so let me write it down here. This is whenever we extend a class, and this is whenever we import a class, right? So that is the part of, I mean, these two kind of relationship there are in Java inside of inheritance mechanism, and that's pretty much it. And just also remember that subclass is also called derived class because we are deriving that class, right? Also, it can be called extended class, and this term came from the word extend. So we extend the class, right? And as I mentioned, it can also be called child class, right? And this is parent class. The opposite of child class is called the parent class, which is the base class or super class. So these are few terms to remember or to understand, and that's pretty much about the inheritance. Now, is there any question from anyone, or should I explain more?
I have a question, something that's off the
Sure.
subject probably. So you know how you have main Java? The one of the class you have as a main Java. Mine it says as a package info Java. What's the difference?
Package info Java.
It's the same thing. It came as a class, but it created package info Java. So I didn't know what was the difference.
Okay.
You can take a
Can I
look
see
at
your
it.
screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So what's the name? So you gave the name.
I didn't give
Why?
this
I
one.
mean,
This one just came up automatically as soon as I created the package. This package info Java came automatically, so I don't know what I did, but that's under class.
Okay. So if you so in line 9 it says main, right? So can you right click on main?
Yeah.
Okay, actually, you know what, right click on package info.java on the left side, and why is refactor
Rename. Okay, refactor rename.
yeah, just rename it to main.
I can rename it, but I was wondering why did it happen? Do you know?
It should not happen. I have no idea. It should not happen.
Okay. Okay.
You no need to write .java.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And also, why does my author it says Selena on it instead of Selena? Where do I go back to change it? Line
The author
5.
name.
Yeah, you know how it's supposed to be Selena, but I guess when I typed it, and I don't remember where I typed it. I think one day I was just watching a video and doing something.
I think it's Selena. Can you click on the plus sign on the left side, line 5?
Line 5. Okay.
Line 5. Yeah. Okay. It's Selena. Okay, so go there. Let me check.
Go where?
Okay, so whenever you configured Eclipse, this is Eclipse, right?
Right. And then I think I put in as a Selene instead of Selena. Is that what I
Yeah,
did?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
when it's
That's fine. Then I'll
so
leave it like
yeah, so yeah, so just Google that. How can I
how to
change the
fix
author
it. Yeah.
name in Eclipse? You will
Yeah,
find it.
I'll do that. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so any other question from anyone else?
No.
Okay. All right. So now let's move to the next our next topic, which is let's go to the encapsulation. We can go, or we can also go to polymorphism, right? Which one you want to do? Polymorphism or encapsulation? We can cover one more.
Whatever you want. I
Yes,
mean,
brother Hila.
you think
You can go
anything
down
you
the
think
list.
is
Okay.
Yeah.
go down the list.
Okay. So let's talk about polymorphism then, since it has a relationship with inheritance, right? So polymorphism is okay. So actually, let me give some note. Um, Polymorphism, the ability of an object to take on many forms, or I also call it using a subtype in place of its supertype, right? And here we have concept of overreach, and we have the concept of overload, and we have concept of um, hiding, and then shadowing. So we'll go one by one. First, give the basic concept of polymorphism, that is using a subtype in place of its supertype. So we just have learned what is subtype and what is supertype, right, in our inheritance topic. So subtype is the one that was extended, and supertype is the class that was extended from, right? So where is my Eclipse? Here, what is the subtype and what is the supertype? Anyone? I have main, employee, student, and person. Four classes here. So which can be considered as subtype, which can be considered as supertype?
Person can be super type.
Which one? You said student?
Person.
Person?
Yes.
Oh yes, person can be supertype. Yes, and then
The subtype would be student or employee, either or could be.
okay. And how about main? Okay, so main can also be considered as subtype, because if you do not extend any class, by default it's extended from the object class. So if I Google and Google for the Java class hierarchy, here if you see this picture right here, right? So as I mentioned, Java is all about like these are all the classes, right? So all the classes actually inherited from others. Let's say this is student class, this is person class. So person has two other class. One is called two other subclass. One is called student. One is called employee. in the back, right? And this is other. This is one more class. Let's say. This is car. This is Toyota. This is Honda. This is Audi, right? And this is this is, let's say, car, Toyota, and this is bike. This is a mountain bike and regular bike, right? So I mentioned, right, in Java API there are more than 4,000 classes, right? So all those 4,000 classes are connected like in this way. All those 4,000 classes are connected in this way. Either a class is extended from somewhere or it is extending some other class, right? So if that is the case, you will think about, so who is the very, very, very super class? Who is sitting in the very top, right? So that is called object. So object class, this is also a class. So this class is sitting at the very top, right? From there it started extending one by other. I mean one after another, right? So the reason I'm explaining that is because if your class do not extend any class, then by default it's extending object class, right? So actually this is public class main. This line is same as public class main extend object, right? So this is the, even though you do not write this, by default it is there under the hood, right? So the reason I mentioned this because main can also be considered as subtype in the sense that it extending the object class, right? So okay, so person is a super class and employee, and these are the subclasses, right? So now in my main method, I can tell that how can I create an object from a student? Anyone quickly? I want to create an object from a student. Anyone?
Student.
We already
Student.
learned.
Student.
Okay. Student.
Yeah.
And then?
Yeah. And then it's a student small. Yeah. Student one, whatever
Okay.
you want. Equal
All
to
right.
new.
Student one. Student one equal new
Student.
student.
And then parenthesis.
Okay.
Semicolon.
Excellent. And I need to create one object from employee. Anyone? Okay. Employee one equal new employee. Right? And how can I create object from person? Is there any other technique, or I should do the same?
Same.
Yes.
Same.
You can say okay.
Right? So now my question is, can I write person 2 equal new student? Can I write this? Yes or no?
No.
Why?
Because that cannot be called from person. Because person doesn't have students info, so you cannot create like a new student.
I thought we
Person
can.
does not have. Okay.
Since you know student extends from
Maybe I'm just thinking the other way around.
person inherits everything, so we can do that.
Right, exactly. So you are right. We can do it because, so here, who can tell what is subtype here and what is supertype here? So this is super type, right?
Yes.
And this is subtype. So
Subtype. Yes.
subtype can be an object of super type. So this is subtype, right? So I can create a subtype of object from a super type of object, right?
Yes.
In other way, I can tell that. So what is the object here? The object is person two, right? So if I ask you usually what is the type of person one? I mean, whenever I write, let's say if I write int I equal one, if I ask you what is the type of I variable, what do you tell? You say the type of I variable is int, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the type of I variable is int. Similarly, what is the type of person one variable? The type of person one variable is person, right? The type of student one variable, this is a variable, and what is the type of this variable? Student.
Yeah.
So what is the type of this variable? Employee. Now, if I ask you what is the type of person two, what are you gonna tell me?
Student.
Okay. So if I ask the type of person two, then you should tell the apparent type of person two variable is person, and
Person.
the actual type of person two variable is student.
Student.
So those are called apparent type. This is called apparent type, and student is called actual type, right? So these are some notes. So keep that here. So now test this line if this line is working or not. Okay, this line is working perfectly, right? Person two equal new student, and I'm not having any error, right? Because this is possible. Now,
Let me
can
ask you,
anyone
brother
tell?
Alam. Brother Alam.
Yes.
So it would be just better just to call the students class and the employee class because it has both the students and the person. If we just call the person class, it only has whatever we define in the person, right? So the student has both.
Can you repeat the question?
Like when
So
we call the
student has
students,
both means what?
yeah, both
Mhm.
whatever's in the person class and whatever's in the student class, right? So we have the name, the
Okay, so here,
nationality, and the
so
GPA.
I mean here, okay, but okay, so who is more powerful? Student is powerful or person is powerful?
I
Who
think a
has more
person
power?
who has more, a person has more power, but the student has more details.
Yeah, student is more. Yeah, this is detail, but
Yes,
see, person can have thousands of other subclass, right? Let's
yes,
say student, employee, teacher, judge, any person you mention, right? Any human being can be a person, right? Any human being, right? In that sense, it is more broad term, right? Or let me give you one more example. So this has to be always bigger, and this has to be always smaller, right? So this should fit inside of this. Let's say think of this way. So if I give you a table and if I give you a cell phone, so you can keep your cell phone on top of your table, right? It can fit, but you cannot keep the table on top of your phone, right? So which is the big one? You have to think about which can fit what. Let's say I have int I equal 1. If I have, let's say, a double d equal uh, 10. Let's say this is 20, right? So I have two variable here. One is called d, one is called I. Now I am thinking of keeping a d inside of I equal d. Is this line valid or invalid? So I have two variables, right? One is called D, right?
Invalid,
Or
because you cannot store a double in an integer.
variable one, variable two, right? Let's call it that way. I don't know. What should I write? Okay, X and Y, right? And I am thinking of doing X equal Y here. So now, is it possible or not? Is this line true or false? So double X equal 10, int Y equal, let's call it 10, same value. Now, can I keep this X is a type of double and this is type of int, right? Is it possible or yes or no?
Yes, integer can be stored in double.
Okay. And how about this?
No.
No, right? So let me check. No, right? And let me check this. Yes. So you are correct. Now can you tell me based on what understanding you said yes or no?
Oh, I mean, you cannot
What
store
what is the
double
what
in
is the
an
information?
integer because double is
Because of what?
bigger.
Exactly. Double
Yeah.
is bigger, right?
Mhm.
So this is bigger. Bigger means it can hold more thing. I mean it can store more. It has more space, or you can think of that way, right? It is bigger. So same thing is going on here, right? The person is bigger and student is smaller. So you can keep this variable. Okay, what's going on? So you can keep this inside of person, but how about if I tell now the vice versa? If I tell student YY equal new person, is it possible or not possible?
Not possible.
Not possible, because this is the same thing, right? So student is small, person is bigger. It should not. It should not. It should give us an error, right? And it's saying type mismatch cannot convert from student to the person to student. It cannot convert to person to student, but it can convert student to person, because the same thing, right? A student is also a person, but a person is not necessary to be a student. It can be any other human being. So now, can you tell me is this possible or not? So can I tell student YY? So this is incorrect, right? This is false. How about can I tell person P equal new person? Is it true or false? Is this true or false? Anyone?
Yes.
Okay, let me check. Yes, this is true. How about person P2 equal new student? Is it true or false?
True.
Let me check. Yes, you are right. It's true. Now, let me check one more. Can I tell that person P3 equal new employee? Is it true or false?
True.
Okay, let me check. Yes, you are right. Now, can I write student S1 equal new student? Is it true or false?
True.
True. Okay. Yes, you are right. Can I write student S2 equal new person? Is it true or false?
False.
Because of the same, right? This is a smaller. I am trying to assign bigger value inside of smaller value, which is not possible. So it's false, right? So how about yes? Any question?
No. Good. Good.
Okay. So how about student S3 equal new employee?
False.
Is it true or false? Because
False.
of
Because we're not extending from. They're both subclasses.
what's up? In a sense, those are. It does not have any relation, right? If I
Yeah,
tell
no relation. Yeah.
string
No relation.
is string, let's say w equal some value, right? And if I have int equal some other value, right? So now can I, if I tell that ww equal www, does it make sense? It does not make sense, right? So this is
No.
a type of int and this is type of string. So those are two different worlds. It does not have any relation with that. So same thing is going on also here. So you cannot tell that student equal, you cannot create an object of student from employee object. So this is also false, right? And the last one is, can I tell that employee, okay, that I have already shown. So if you understand up to this point, you will be fine, right? And so that is the basic concept of the polymorphism, the understanding. I did not started this concept yet. I'm just trying to understand.
Father, can you copy those to your notes? The one that you just did, the true false, to your notes.
This note.
Yeah, the one that we just did. Can you copy them to your notes?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Copy that and paste it here. Okay, I did that. So again, if I now create, let's say, I mean quickly in 2-3 minutes, let me give you one more example. So if I have class called animal, one class, I have one more class called dog, and I have one more class called cat, right? So the hierarchy, so how the hierarchy is designed. So can I tell a cat is a animal? Is it true statement or false statement?
True.
True.
This is true, right? But you cannot write a animal is a cat. You have to write a cat is an animal. This is true. So this is first statement. We have to figure it out, right? And second statement, we have to figure out a dog is an animal, right? If we can figure out these two lines, we can create relationship in these three classes, right? So we have to, our goal is to understand. So in this case, this is very easy to understand because we know what is animal, we know what is dog, and we know what is cat, right? But if from the Java API, if I randomly give you three classes, or if you create some classes, let's say class A, this is class A, and you have, let's say, my other class, let's say one more class, let's class C, right? So I have three classes here. Now, if I want you to create relationship, how can you create that, right? So now you have to go to the field, you have to analyze, you have to see what are the common term or common fields there. Then you will be able to understand the relationship, right? Because you are understanding here because you are very familiar with this term. You are very familiar what is person is, what is student is, but you don't know what is class A unless you go and analyze class A, right? And the reason I'm explaining, after you analyzing how you will extend from one to another, you have to come up with this type of solution. A cat is an animal, a dog is an animal, right? That means animal should be the superclass of cat and dog, and you have to come up with the solution. A cat is not a dog, right? You have to also come up with this solution. And then you will be able to say that, okay, now I understand the architecture. The the architecture will be something like this. So this is my animal class, right? So let's say animal. Okay, let's just write A, right? And it will have two subclass, and both subclass will, so one subclass here and another subclass here, right? And this will be the dog, and this will be cat, right? And this will extend. So this, the arrow sign should come here, and this arrow sign should come here, right? So this is the actual the architecture, right, of these classes. This solution you have to come up with. There is no way you can do like this. If you do this, this is wrong. There is no way you can tell this. This is also wrong. You cannot tell this. This is wrong, right? Only the true is these three class and these two sign pointing to the super class. So you have to come up with this solution. If you have given some classes, how can you create the relationship of those using the extend class, the extend feature? Okay, so let's go back to pointer. Okay, so here cat dog, right? And so now I can tell that here animal, right? So a cat extends animal, and then a dog extends animal, and what else? And that's it, right? And whenever we write the whenever we create object, we can write cat c1 equal new cat. So this is true, right? We can write cat. So we can write animal a1 equal new animal. This is also true, right? We can write animal a3 a2 equal new cat. This is also true, right? And animal a3 equal new dog. This is also true. We can tell, by the way, can I tell object, let's say o1 equal new new cat? Can I tell it, yes or no?
Yes,
Yes, because can you explain why?
because you mentioned earlier the default all the classes will be called to the object. It's the
Right.
higher.
So by default, so if I go to now employee class, so this is extending from person, right? Okay. Now, if I go person, the person did not extend anything, right? So if it did not extend anything, that means is by default is extended from object, right? So we should be able to. So object is the super class here, super class, right? I mean child, I mean parent class, and then grandparent class, right?
Brother
Think about
Alan,
this way.
what do we mean by object? Like what kind of class? What is it? Like in
It's a class.
that
So
include everything?
that includes some fields and methods like usual, like other classes, right? So Java classes are designed, as I mentioned, they are connected with each other like this way,
Yes.
right? So at the beginning, if you read here, including one at the top, and if you read this line, at the top of the hierarchy, object is the most general of all classes. Classes near the bottom of the hierarchy provide more specialized behavior, right? So they're giving an example of bicycle, and let's see here. So here they're saying bicycle, right? And they're creating some inheritance using the bicycle. Okay, mountain bike and the, I think, the regular bike, right?
Put
So
it
this
into the program that we have. You know the program that we just did, the one that the classes that you just did,
Mhm.
right? So our object is. Can you go back to it? Our object was the S9. So everything is inherently, by default inherent from S9. Is that what you mean? The object
No, no,
or that's the package? I'm sorry.
no. So in this picture, S9 will not come. S9 is a
Yeah,
package,
package. Yeah.
right? Okay. S9 is a package. I'm dealing with main, employee, student, and
Right.
person,
Yes.
right?
So
And
main by
also one
default.
one more class. Also, one more class is coming here because, as I mentioned, if you do not extend a class from other class, it will be extended from object class. I mentioned, right? So
Yes. And what
if
is
I
the
go
object
to,
class?
you wanna see the object class?
What is the object class?
Oh, okay, let me show you. So if I go to object class, so it's same as other classes. It has some methods here, right? And some fields and some fields, right? And it has some methods. Let's example clone, equal, hash set, notify, wait, toString, and so on. In this here, toString is little important. I will explain a little maybe in the next session about toString, but you do not have to understand others. This you don't have to understand right now. Just know that a class is by default is extended from object class if you do not extend a class. I mean, if you do not write anything, by default it will be extended from object. Let's say this here I wrote public class student extend person. If I take off extend person, what gonna happen? Now it is extending from where? Anyone?
What was the question, brother? I get distracted.
Okay. So this class is extending from which class? Student,
Person.
person. But if I take off person, then what happens?
Object.
Object.
Object. Exactly. That means if you do not write anything, by default is coming from object, right? So here, if you see student extend person. If I go to person again, person extend what? Okay, I understand. So let me give you one example, then you will be clear. Okay.
That would be object,
So
right?
let's
Person.
exactly object. So object is then parent of person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And object is a grandparent of a student. Am I correct?
Yes.
Exactly. So let's say if I create now one more class here, class. If I say senior student, right? and I'm going to create one more class. Let's say a junior student. So now I created two class. One is called senior student, one is called junior student. And in my senior, in a public class junior student, if I write extend senior student, I can write this. And in senior student also, I'm sorry, no, extend student, right? And here I can also tell extend student. Now, what is the picture, real picture? Let me draw it, okay? Let's, okay, pen.
I mean, I would say
So,
from object you have a person, then from person you have the
right,
student. From student you have two branches
right,
going to and junior student.
exactly. So person, then I have student, and
Yeah.
I have employee.
Yep.
And now a student has two other branches, right?
Mhm.
One is called senior student, one is called junior student, right? So now here, can I tell, previously I told, right, student is a person, employee is a person. Now can I tell senior student is a student, junior student is a student? Can I tell?
Yes.
Yes. So can I tell senior student is a person, junior student is a person?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes
Because
or
they're
no?
all yes, because all inherited down the line.
Exactly. So we can tell these also is part of, so a student is the parent of this child and person is the grandparent of this child, right? So now if I erase this, let me erase all this and go back to pointer. Now if I go back to my main, so here I was giving some example, right? Now can I tell that person, okay, student, student, student S4 equal new senior student? Can I tell it? Yes or no?
No.
No. Why?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, yes. I thought you said yep. You can do student with the senior student.
So senior
Oh
student
no, no. A
is
senior student is smaller than a student. I'm sorry, man. I'm getting confused.
Should be false.
so is it possible or not possible?
Not possible.
No, it is possible.
Not
It's
possible.
possible because the
It's
student is the
possible because
parent.
a yeah, student is the parent, and the senior student is the child, and it's
Right.
smaller, so you can store it in a student. Yes.
Okay. So this is possible, right? And
Yes.
in the same way, I can also tell junior student, right? Is it possible?
Yes.
Okay. This is also possible. What's the error? Okay, this is spelling mistake. All right. So how about now? My question is, the main question is here. Can I tell person S4 equals new junior student?
Yes.
Okay, everyone agree?
Yes.
This is true, right? Because why?
Because person is a hierarchy.
Exactly. That is the hierarchy. Right. So previously, whatever picture I draw, just give me one quick. So I have written P, right, and student, and I had employee, right, and from student I had two other, right, as senior student and junior, right. So now if I see this picture, person is the parent, is the big parent, right? So I can create object, junior student and senior student object from person also, because this is the big, I mean, the grandparent of these two grandchild. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So now you have to understand all you have to understand is this. So since person never extend any other class, by default is extending somewhere
Object.
object, right? So by default is coming from object. So since it is coming from object, now can I write here that uh, object O1 equal new junior student. Is it possible or not possible?
Yes.
Okay, this is possible, right? So okay, if this confused you, come here from again. So you said that um, junior student as equal new junior student. There is no doubt. This is 100% correct, right? Junior student as equal new junior student. This is correct, right? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. There is no doubt because I am creating object from here, and student as equal new junior student. This is also correct because student is the parent of this child. So this is also correct. So if I take off student and write person, this is also correct because this person is the grandparent of this child, this grandchild. This is also correct. So now if I take off person and write object, this is also correct because person also, this is grandparent. Person is by default extending from object class. That's why this is also correct. We can try it. Yes, we are not getting any error. So this statement is also correct because object is the most super class sitting on the top. So is there any question up to this point? Any one of you?
No, I think it was good.
Okay. So yes, that was the tricky part. If you understand this part, the techniques of the object-oriented language, right? So if you understand, if you can play around this, the concept will be very clear, and all this will be very helpful to understand. I mean, will be very helpful, like inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, and abstraction. These are like related with one another. If you understand a concept of this concept is also you need to understand in polymorphism also, in an encapsulation also, in abstraction also. They are actually related, tightly related with one other. So it is very important to understand everything, all these concepts that I'm explaining. So let me erase this and go back to our interface. So we are clear about all this, and how can we create relationship and how can we access of those fields. So as a recap, whenever I have some fields and method in a class, and if I extend that class in my other class, so that other class will automatically get all the fields and methods inside of that subtype. I mean that subclass. So that is the main understanding of inheritance. I'm sorry. Okay. So that is inheritance. I'm actually go back to inheritance. I was explaining the polymorphism, right? So polymorphism is using the subtype on in place of each supertype is called the polymorphism. The one that I was just explaining, junior student and senior student here, right here. Sorry about that. So this is the concept of polymorphism, right? And we will go back to this topic right here. We are right now here, polymorphism, right? And in polymorphism, we have 4 topics. They are override, overload, hiding, and shadowing. We did not started this yet. I am just explaining polymorphism, and I'm almost done. But one more thing I just want to make sure before I move to the override and overload. If I go here and create a method, let's say if I create a method here, let's call it public static void or int, let's say my method, and this is one of my methods, right? And right now I'm getting error, public static. Okay, this method must return. Okay, so this is an int, right? So I have to return a int type, right? Int 1. Is there any confusion in this method, or this is piece of cake for you guys? This is fine, right?
Yeah, this is fine.
I just have a method. This is a static method, right? And this is my method name, and this is the return type. And we know that whatever return type we have here, let's say if I write void, that means it will not return anything. I no need to have any return value if my method has the void return type. But if I have, let's say, int, now this method must return a int value, or it should have an output of int value. So I can just tell return 1. So now the requirement is fulfilled, right? It's saying please return me an int value. I'm saying okay, take 1 as a return value. How about if I write a string here? What's gonna happen? Anyone?
You have to output a string, return a string.
Okay. If I write a string, now it is complaining. It says cannot convert from int to string. It says okay, basically is asking for a string return, but you are giving int return. So you are not fulfilling, right? You are promising here that this method eventually will return a string value, but at the end you are actually returning an int value. Excuse me. So you are not keeping the promise, right? So that's why you are getting error here. Now we have to return a string value here, or we have to tell int here. Okay. Now the reason I wrote this method. What if I write? Take off this line. What if I write here student? Now what I have to do?
You have to return
Anyone?
students.
Returns.
Right. I have to return a variable that is a student type. A student type of variable I have to return. So since this is not a primitive type, I have to create an object first. So how can we create an object? We can write a student, let's say s1 equal new student, right? Now I can tell, okay, return s1. Okay, so everything is nice and clean now, right? Now, if I write here, let's say same thing, right? How about if I write person here? What I have to return?
You can return a person, student, or employee.
Excellent. Yes, good, very good understanding. Okay, so let's start from student. So if I am promising that this method will eventually will return a person, so I can tell person. Okay, I can simply say return new person. If right. Okay, if this is too much for you, actually create a person class. Person p equal new person, right? Now I can tell return p. right? So now the tricky part, right? So is asking for student type, can I return student type or not? If I also have a student as equal new student, instead of returning P, can I tell return as? This is a
Yes.
valid line or not?
Yes.
Everyone agree?
Yes. Yes.
Let me check. Yes, it's not complaining, right? That means I can also return, because this is bigger, right? So this is asking for a person type, and I am returning a student type, which is also possible. Now my question is this: if I have a if my method require a student type as a return value, can I write return P?
No.
No.
No, right? Yes, you are right, because this is smaller, but you are trying to return a bigger, more bigger than student type, right? So it won't be able to handle that. It's saying cannot convert from person to student. That means the vice versa is possible, right? It can convert from student to person, but it cannot convert a person to student. I mean, a person in a sense, a person can be student, right? By student, but a student not necessary to be a person. That's what I was telling from the very beginning, right? So you have understood that. Similarly, I cannot also return an employee. So if I have a student, I have to return either a student or I have no choice. If I have person, then I can return person. I can return P. I can also return S, right? Now my last question is, if I have one more, let's say I have object O equal new object, right? So now can I return O here, yes or no?
No.
No,
Because
because it's bigger.
His object is bigger than person.
okay, excellent. So it's no, right? So but is this possible? Object, and then I have
Now we can return anything.
excellent, yes. Now can I tell J here? As you mentioned, I can return anything. So I can return J, I can return S, I can return P, I can return O.
Or brother
Eh,
Alam,
eh,
or if we don't, if we delete the object, that mean by default it's the object, right? If you don't have the word object there or anything.
Where? From where you want to
Do
delete
we have to
object?
have the object there in front of the method, my method?
Line 6 is
Where?
talking about.
Yeah, if you remove it, is
Line
that
6?
by default? No, yeah, line 6. No, just the word object. If you delete it and don't put anything, is it by default is gonna return an object, or we have to specify?
No. So now you are declaring a method, right? So what is the rules of declaring a method? In the last session I gave some note, right? So after writing public static, you have to mention a return type, right? If your method will not return any value, then you have to write void, right?
Void. Okay. That was my question. So we have to specify. Okay.
Yeah, you have to specify a return type no matter what. And void, if you write void, you cannot return anything.
No, I
So
thought if you don't do anything there by default, it would be the object. Just
okay, no, you have to mention some return type.
okay. I get it.
Even it's void. Yeah. So now if I write object here, now it can return anything. Okay, so let me show you where we are right now. So today I was explaining OOP. We explained inheritance and is a relationship and has a relationship, and we started polymorphism. from polymorphism, now we know basic understanding of polymorphism, subtype, and supertype, which is the child and parent classes, right? And we know that polymorphism has some features. Those are called overread, overload, hiding, and shadowing. So I will explain one, maybe next session I will start this. So before we end up the session today, since it's already 7, do you have any questions? So next session we will start from this part. And after this, I will also finish encapsulation and abstraction. And as I mentioned, we will have some announcement on Sunday, so do not miss on class on Sunday. And we will have some recovery classes. So basically, Brother Murshid will and Samsuddin will explain everything on Sunday, and we will go from there. Okay. So,
Okay, thank you. No, thank you so much.
Thank
no
you,
problem.
brother.
Any other questions from anyone else? Okay.
No question.
All right. So thank you very much, and I will see you on next group session, inshallah. Thank you. Bye.
Inshallah.
Sure.